Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into this really fascinating academic framework that completely flips how we think about business success. We usually picture business as this massive gladiatorial arena, right? Individual companies just battling it out for market dominance. But what if that idea entirely misses the hidden mechanics of how modern businesses actually win? We're going to look at a pivotal 2016 study by Umar Mukhtar and Suleiman Anwar. It takes us deep into these hidden internal service networks that literally dictate who dominates the market. Let's get into it.
So, think about this. Do companies compete or do their supply chains? I want you to immediately challenge your conventional business thinking here. The research we're exploring today proposes that modern competition has shifted in a massive way. The real battle, it's no longer fought between an isolated firm and its rival. Instead, the actual competition happens between entire, integrated supply networks. Meaning, if your supply chain is disjointed, honestly, even the greatest product in the world isn't going to save you. All right, here's our roadmap for today. First, from products to services. 2, mind the interface gaps. 3, 3 pillars of quality. 4, relationship quality is key. And finally, number 5, winning the supply chain.
Section 1. From products to services.
Okay, to really grasp the modern supply chain, we kind of have to look back at how businesses historically perceived value and how drastically that's changed over the last century. Back in the 1930s, think Frederick W. Taylor's era, the mindset was 100% on mass production. Success just meant making physical goods efficiently, checking for defects, and slashing expenses. But then, by the 1950s, as society evolved and consumer awareness grew, we started seeing a shift toward a real service orientation. People started realizing that utility wasn't just in the physical good itself. Fast forward to the 1980s, and boom, there is an absolute explosion in service quality literature, totally led by the famous ServQual model. Basically, marketing became way less about just moving boxes and much more about understanding the gap between customer expectations and the actual service delivered.
Now, the crucial takeaway here is this stark contrast. We have moved from a strict product orientation, where value is just locked inside tangible goods and simple economic exchange, straight into a service orientation. Today, even if you are literally manufacturing physical products, your actual value relies heavily on intangibles. We're talking knowledge exchange, information sharing, and value co-creation between partners. It's a whole ecosystem now.
Section 2. Mind the interface gaps.
Once you realize your supply chain is actually a complex ecosystem of services, you suddenly see exactly where the system is most vulnerable to breaking down. Think of a supply chain like a high-stakes relay race. You've got suppliers, a focal firm, distributors, and ultimately the customer. And right in between them are third-party logistics providers, the 3PLs, acting as the bridges. Now think about those transition moments, those critical interface gaps. Every single time materials or information handover from one party to another, like from a supplier to a logistics provider, that is a potential drop of the baton. If the internal service quality between those two business partners fails, an interface gap opens right up, and the entire chain slows down.
So, why do these gaps matter so much? Well, because they directly impact what the researchers call supply chain competitiveness, or SCC. SCC is basically the ability of your supply chain to totally outperform the competition in quality, flexibility, agility, cost, and customer value. Bridging those dangerous interface gaps we just talked about is the absolute secret to achieving true supply chain competitiveness. If your links are tight, you're going to be faster, cheaper, and frankly, better than the rival network.
Section 3. 3 pillars of quality.
Okay, so how do we actually close those gaps in the real world? According to the researchers, every single time two partners in a supply chain interact, 3 distinct pillars of service quality absolutely must be maintained to keep that gap closed. They are outcome quality, interaction quality, and environmental quality. If you nail these 3, that baton gets passed perfectly every time.
This forms the very first building block of the researchers' conceptual framework, sitting right between the interface gaps of the dyad, which is just a fancy way of saying the two partnering firms. But what do these 3 academic terms actually look like in the messy day-to-day operations of a real business? Let's ground this in reality for a second. Outcome quality is the what. Was the core service actually delivered? Were the parts on time? Was the billing quick and accurate? Then, interaction quality is the how. When the logistics provider dropped off the shipment to the focal firm, were they courteous? Was there empathy and collaborative problem-solving going on? And finally, environmental quality refers to the actual physical surroundings and conditions during that transaction. And here's the kicker, you need all three. A delivery might be perfectly on time, which is great outcome quality, but if the delivery driver is completely uncooperative with your warehouse staff, your interaction quality totally fails, and an interface gap starts to form. It's kind of like ordering a pizza, right? It arrives exactly on time and tastes amazing. That's your outcome. But the driver throws it into your bushes, that's your interaction. Needless to say, the relationship is damaged.
Section 4. Relationship quality is key.
Now, what happens internally when those three pillars of service quality are successfully maintained over time? Well, this is where the magic really happens. When you consistently deliver great outcome, interaction, and environmental quality, you create this incredibly crucial mediator, relationship quality. The researchers identify this specific piece as the mechanism that translates basic, everyday service delivery into a massive competitive advantage.
So what exactly is relationship quality made of? Simply put, trust and commitment. When business-to-business partners consistently treat each other well, when they communicate transparently and solve problems together, they build incredibly deep trust. They commit to each other's success. At that point, they aren't just hunting for the cheapest vendor anymore, they're fully invested in a highly functioning partnership. They can't just easily jump ship to a competitor because the relationship quality is simply too high to abandon.
Section 5. Winning the supply chain.
All right, let's zoom out for a second. We've looked at the micro-level interactions, how two specific partners behave. Now let's look at the macro-level impact on the entire ecosystem. This is the final destination in our framework, supply chain competitiveness. This is where you achieve that ultimate dominance in the market, the agility, the massive cost savings, and that ultimate customer value we defined a bit earlier.
And here is how the whole puzzle finally clicks together. You minimize the interface gaps by hyper-focusing on outcome, interaction, and environmental quality. That high service quality then feeds directly into the mediator, relationship quality. Real trust and commitment are forged. And then that powerful relationship quality drives straight into overarching supply chain competitiveness. High relationship quality is exactly what transforms isolated, totally vulnerable supply links into one unbeatable, integrated chain.
I want to leave you with this really powerful concluding takeaway straight from the researchers. The silos between partners in the supply chain, even if you have high-quality products, will not create sustainable competitive advantage. Really think about that for a second. You could manufacture the absolute best physical product in your entire industry. But if your internal collaboration is broken, if your logistics providers and suppliers just don't trust you, you are going to lose to a network that operates in harmony.
Which brings us to our final thought. I challenge you to apply this powerful framework to your own world. Where are the interface gaps hiding in your own supply chain? Where is the baton being dropped right now? Are you focusing entirely on the outcome while totally ignoring the interaction quality? Remember, it's not just you versus the competition anymore. It is your entire network versus theirs. Start treating every internal transaction as a vital service. Builds up that relationship quality, and you'll absolutely find your competitive edge. Thanks for hanging out and learning with us, and we'll see you on the next Explainer.